Welcome to 2026 Misfits, Underdogs, and Other Little Lunatics. So, I hope everybody had an amazing new year. I had a great new year. I really did. It was so relaxing, and that's how I like it. So, now that I've taken a few days myself, which was so nice, I'm back. I wasn't sure what I wanted to start the new year off with. Like, what do I want to start it off with? I don't think you understand how many books I have. I could have gone back to the Brothers Grimm, but that's kind of a filler. I really thought about it. I was going to come back with Pet Sematary because that's a great book. But it was like, it's definitely resurrection. But, one of my favorite movies is What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. And I thought, it is about pulling people you love out of that realm of hell. That's what the whole book's about. And that's what we're all supposed to be doing, is rather than tearing each other down, pulling each other up, right? Right. So I thought, let's start off with What Dreams May Come. Let's start 2026 off. And Robin Williams, what an amazing actor. But this book, it's good. It's good. I have like 4 copies of the movie because when I wanted to watch it, if I couldn't find it, I was going and buying it. So, anyways, I'll do the introduction. I'll tell you what it's about, and then we'll come back with chapter 1. What Dreams May Come by Richard Matheson. With grateful love to my wife for adding the sweet measure of her soul to my existence. Oh, he's pretty romantic. Well, that's off to a good start, I'd say. To the reader. Okay. To the reader. An introduction to a novel is almost without exception unnecessary. This is my 10th published novel, and the thought of writing introductions to any of the preceding 9 never ever occurred to me. For this novel, however, I feel a brief prologue is called for because its subject is survival after death. It is essential that you realize before reading the story that only one aspect of it is fictional: the characters and their relationships. Right? With few exceptions, every other detail is derived exclusively from research. For that reason, I have added at the conclusion of the novel a list of the books used for this research. As you will see, they are many and diverse, yet despite their wide variation with regard to authors and times and places of publication, there is a persistent, unavoidable uniformity to their content. You would, of course, have to read them all to prove this to yourself. I urge you to do so. You will find it an enlightening and extraordinary experience. Richard Matheson, Calabasas, California, August 1977. That's interesting, because this movie was out in the theaters. I saw it 1996. So he wrote this in 1977, so almost 20 years after he wrote it. I didn't know that. Very interesting. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. And that's from Hamlet, Act 3, Sec 1. Introduction. The manuscript you are about to read came into my possession in the following way. On the evening of February the 17th, 1976, our doorbell rang and my wife answered it. Several moments later, she returned to the bedroom where we were watching television and said that some woman wanted to see me. I got up and walked to the front hall. The door was open and I saw a tall woman in her 50s standing on the porch. She was well dressed and holding a large, bulky envelope in her hands. "Are you Robert Nielsen?" she asked. I told her that I was, and she held out the envelope. "This is for you then," she said. I looked at it suspiciously and inquired what it was. "A communication from your brother," she replied. My suspicions increased. "What do you mean?" I asked. "Your brother, Chris, has dictated this manuscript to you," she said. Her words angered me. "I don't know who you are," I told her, "but if you possessed the least knowledge about my brother, you know that he died more than a year ago." Ooh. The woman sighed. "I know that, Mr. Nielsen," she said. Already interesting. Tiredly, "I am a psychic. Your brother has communicated this material to me from..." She stopped as I began to close the door, then quickly added, "Mr. Nielsen, please." There was a sound of such genuine urgency in her voice that I looked at her in surprise. "I have just undergone 6 exhausting months transcribing this manuscript," she told me. "I didn't choose to do it. I have my own affairs to deal with, but your brother would not let me be until I wrote down every word of his communication and promised faithfully to bring it to you." Her voice took on a desperate tone. "Now you have got to take it and give me peace." Whoa, pretty intense. With that, she thrust the envelope into my hands, turned and hurried down the path to the sidewalk. As I watched, she got into her car and drove off quickly. I have never seen or heard from her again. I do not even know her name. Messengers, right? We're all vessels. I have read the manuscript 3 times now and wish I knew what to make of it. Sorry. I am not a religious man, but like anyone who would certainly like to believe that death is more than oblivion, still I find it difficult, if not impossible, to accept the story at face value. I keep thinking it is nothing more than that, a story. True, the facts are there. Facts about my brother and his family, which this lady could not possibly have known, unless one goes on the premise that she spent months of laborious and expensive research in uncovering them before writing the manuscript. In that case, what is the point of it? What could she have gained from such a course? The question in my mind about this book are manifold. I will not enumerate them, but permit the reader to form his own. Of only one thing I am certain. If the manuscript is true, all of us had better examine our lives carefully. Ooh, that's a good start. Robert Nielsen, Islip, New York, January 1978. Okay. Sleep of Death. Is this chapter 1? Let's see. Give me a second here. I haven't gone over this. I want to see if this is actually chapter 1 or still the intro. Okay, no, that must be chapter 1. My bad. Is it? Well, that's short, so I'm going to read it anyway. A blur of rushing images. Let's have some water. Had a couple days off of reading, and it's like, gotta readjust myself. All right. That water where it's not there. Get myself situated. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, anyway. Let's get going. Okay. I'm ready. A blur of rushing images. Begin at the beginning is the phrase. I cannot do that. I begin at the end, the conclusion of my life on earth. I present it to you as it happened, and what happened afterward. A note about the text. You have read my writing, Robert. This account may seem unlike it. The reason I am limited by my transcriber. My thoughts must travel through her mind. I cannot surmount that. All the grains will not pass through the filter. Understand if I appear to oversimplify, especially at first. Both of us are doing the best we can. There. Thank God. Thank God I was alone that night. Usually, Ian went to the movies with me. Twice a week because of my work, you know? That night, he didn't go. He was appearing in a school play. Once again, thank God. I went to a theater near a shopping center. Cannot get the name through. A big one, which had been divided into two. Ask Ian for the name. It was after 11 when I left the theater. I got into my car and drove towards the golf course. The tiny one, for children. Cannot get the word, though, through. All right, spell it slowly now. Mean, yeah, do, good. We have it. Miniature. But it's like dot 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 me dot 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 sure. Anyway. There was traffic on the street. No wider avenue. Not exact, but good enough. I thought there was an opening and pulled out. Had to stop. A car was speeding towards me. There was room for it to move around, but it didn't. Hit my left front fender, sent me a spinning. I was shaken, but had on my belt. Not belt, harness. I would not have been too badly injured, but a van came up and hit the right rear fender of my car, knocking me across the middle line. A truck was coming in the opposite direction. Hit my car straight on. I heard a grinding crash, the shattering of glass. I hit my head and blackness swept across me. For an instant, I believed I saw myself unconscious, bleeding. Then came darkness. I was conscious again. The pain was dreadful. I could hear my breathing, an awful sound. Slow and shallow with sporadic, liquid sighs. My feet were icy cold. I remember that. Gradually, I sensed a room around me. People, too, I think. Something kept me from being sure. Sedation. Sedation? Sedation. Sidayshin. No, redo. Spell slowly. Sedation. This is the translation that the psychic had got from his deceased brother. That's why it's kind of like this. I've never read the book before, so I'm new to this too. I began to hear a whispering voice. I couldn't make out the words. Briefly, I could see a form nearby. My eyes were closed, but I saw it. I couldn't tell if the form was male or female, but I knew that it was speaking to me. When I couldn't hear the words, it went away. Another pain began, this one in my mind, increasing steadily. I seemed to tune it in as though it were a radio station. It was, jeez, something's attacking my throat chakra. Surprise, surprise. It was not my pain, but Anna's. She was crying, frightened, because I was hurt. She was afraid for me. I felt her anguish. She was suffering terribly. I tried to will away the shadows, but I couldn't. Tried in vain to speak her name. Don't cry, I thought. I'll be all right. Don't be afraid. I love you, Anna. Where are you? That instant, I was home. It was Sunday evening. All of us were in the family room, talking and laughing. Anna was next to me, Ian beside her, Richard next to Ian, Marie on the other end of the sofa. I had my arm around Anna. She was cuddled against me. She was warm, and I kissed her cheek. We smiled at each other. It was Sunday evening, peaceful and idyllic, all of us together. I felt myself begin to rise from darkness. I was lying on a bed. The pain was back again, all through me. I had never known such pain before. I knew that I was slipping. Yes, the word is slipping. Now I heard a ghastly sound, a rattling in my throat. I prayed that Anna and the children were not around to hear it. It would terrify them. I asked God not to let them hear that horrible noise. Protect them from that horrible noise. The thought came to my mind then, Chris, you're dying. I strained to draw in breath, but fluids in my windpipe kept the air from passing through. I felt thick and sluggish, trapped in density. There was someone by the bed, that form again. Don't fight it, Chris, it told me. I grew angry at the words. Whoever it was, they wanted me to die. I fought against that. I would not be taken. Anne! I called to her and thought, hold on to me. Don't let me go. Still, I slipped. My body is too badly hurt, I thought in sudden dread. I felt the weakness of it, then a strange sensation, ticking. Odd, I know, ridiculous. But that was it, all over me. Another change. It was not a bed I lay on, but a cradle. I could feel it rocking back and forth, back and forth. Slowly, I began to understand. I wasn't in a cradle, and the bed was still. My body was rocking back and forth. There were tiny, crackling noises deep inside me. sound you hear when pulling off a bandage slowly. Inside, or less pain now, the pain was fading. Afraid, I thought to reestablish pain. In seconds, it was back. Worse than ever, agonized. I clung to it. It meant I was alive. I would not be taken. Anne! My mind cried out, pleading, hold on to me. It was no use. I could feel life draining from me. Heard the sounds again, much louder now. The tearing of 100 tiny threads. I had no sense of taste or smell. Sensation left my toes, my feet. Numbness started up my legs. I struggled to recapture feelings, but I couldn't. Something cold was drifting through my stomach, through my chest. It stopped and gathered icily around my heart. I felt my heart thump slowly, slowly, like a funeral procession drum. I knew abruptly what was happening in the next room. I could see an aged woman lying there, gray strands of hair across her pillow, yellow skin and hands like bird claws, cancer of the stomach. Someone sat beside her, speaking softly. Daughter? I don't want to see this, I decided. Instantly, I left that room and was in mine again. The pain was almost gone now. I could not restore it no matter how I tried. I heard a humming sound. Yes, humming. Still, the threads kept tearing. I felt each severed thread end curling in. The cold something moved again. It moved until it centered in my head. Everything else was numb. Please, I called for help. No voice. My tongue laid paralyzed. I felt my being drawing inward, totally collected in my head. Membranes were compressed. No, try again. Membranes. Yes, pushed out and towards the center all at once. I began to move out through an opening in my head. There was a buzzing noise, a ringing, something rushing very fast like a stream through a narrow gorge. I felt myself begin to rise. I was a bubble, bobbing up and down. I thought I saw a tunnel up above, dark and endless. I turned over and looked down and was stunned to see my body lying on the bed, bandaged and immobile. Fed through plastic tubes, I was connected to it by a cord, which glistened with a silver light. Thin, it joined my body at the top of my head. The silver cord, I thought. My God, the silver cord. I knew that it was all that kept my body living. Revulsion came now, as I saw my legs and arms begin to twitch. Breath had almost ceased. There was a look of agony on my face. Again, I fought to go back down and join my body. No, I won't go. I could hear my mind cry out, Anne, help me. Please, we have to be together. I forced myself down and stared at my face. The lips were purple. There was dew-like sweat across the skin. I saw the neck veins start to swell. The muscles of my body had begun to twitch. I tried with all my will to get back in. Anne! I thought, please call me back so I can stay with you. A miracle occurred. Life filled my body, healthy color sufficing the skin, a look of peace across my face. I thank God. Anne and the children wouldn't have to see me as I'd been. I thought that I was coming back, you see. Not so. I saw my body in a sack of many colors, drawn up by the silver cord. I felt a dropping sensation, heard a snapping noise, as though a giant rubber band had broken, felt myself begin to rise. Intense. A flashback then, yes, that's correct, a flashback. Just as in the movies, but much faster. You've read the phrase and heard it many times. His whole life flashed before him. Robert, it's true. So fast I couldn't follow it. And in reverse. The days before the accident, back through the children's lives, my marriage to Anne, my writing career, college, World War II, high school, grammar school, my childhood, and my infancy, 1974 to 1927. Every second of those years, each movement, thought, emotion, every spoken word, I saw it all. A blur of rushing images. Well, let's keep reading. To dream of dreaming. I sat up on the bed abruptly, laughing. It had only been a dream. I felt alert, all senses magnified. Incredible, I thought, how real a dream can be. But something was wrong with my vision. Everything was blurred. As I looked around, I couldn't see beyond 10 feet. The room was familiar, the walls, the stucco ceiling, 15 feet by 12. The drapes were beige with brown and orange and stripes. I saw a color television set hung near the ceiling. To my left, a chair, orange-red upholstery like leather. Arms of stainless steel. The carpeting was the same orange-red. Now I knew why things looked blurred. The room was filled with smoke. There was no odor, though. I found that odd. Not smoke. I suddenly changed my mind. The accident. My eyes were damaged. I was not dismayed. The relief in knowing I was still alive transcended such concern. First things first, I thought. I had to find Anne and tell her I was all right, end her suffering. I dropped my legs across the right side of the mattress and stood. The bedside table was made of metal, painted beige. The top is in our kitchen. Spell Formica. I saw an alcove with a sink. The faucets looked like golf club heads, you know? There was a mirror hung above the sink. My vision was so blurred, I couldn't see my reflection. I started moving closer to the sink, then had to stop. A nurse was coming in. She walked directly towards me, and I stepped aside. She didn't even look at me, but gasped and hurried towards the bed. I turned. A man was lying on it, slack-jawed, skin a pasty gray. He was heavily bandaged, an array of plastic tubes attached to him. I turned back in surprise as the nurse ran from the room. I couldn't hear what she was shouting. I moved in closer on the man and saw that he was probably dead. How come someone else was in my bed, though? What kind of hospital would put two patients in the same bed? Strange. I leaned in close to look at him. His face was just like mine. I shook my head. That was impossible. I looked down at his left hand. He wore a wedding band exactly like the one I wore. How could that be? I began to feel an aching coldness in my stomach. I tried to draw the sheet back from his body, but I couldn't. Somehow, I had lost the sense of touch. I kept on trying until I saw my fingers going through the sheet. then pulled my hand back, sickened. No, it isn't me, I told myself. Proof positive of life. I whirled as a pair of doctors rushed into the room, stepping back to let them at the body. One of them began to blow his breath into the man's mouth. The other had a high P spell, hypodermic. Yes, I watched him shove the needle end into the man's flesh. Then a nurse came running in, pushing some machines on wheels. One of the doctors pressed the ends of two thick metal rods against the man's bare chest, and he twitched. Now I knew that there was no relationship between the man and me, for I felt nothing. Their efforts were in vain. The man was dead. Too bad, I thought. His family would be grieving, which made me think of Anne and the children. I had to find and reassure them, especially Anne. I knew how terrified she was, my poor sweet Anne. I turned and walked towards the doorway. On my right was a bathroom. Glancing in, I saw a toilet, light switch, and a button with a red bulb next to it. The word emergency printed beneath the bulb. I walked into the hall and recognized it. Yes, of course. The card in my wallet said to take me there in case of an accident. The Motion Picture Hospital in Woodland Hills. I stopped and tried to work things out. There'd been an accident. They'd brought me here. Why wasn't I in bed then? But I had been in bed. The same one the dead man was in. The man who looked like me. There had to be an explanation for all this. I couldn't find it, though. I couldn't think with clarity. The answer finally came. I wasn't sure it was correct, but there was nothing else. I had to accept it, for the moment anyway. I was under anesthesia. Then we were... I was under anesthesia. Anesthesia? They were operating on me. Everything was happening inside my mind. That had to be the answer. Nothing else made sense. Now what? I thought. Despite the distress of what was taking place, I had to smile. If everything was happening in my mind, then, being conscious of it, couldn't I control it? Right, I thought to myself. I do exactly what I chose. And what I chose to do was find my Anne. As I decided that, I saw another doctor running down the hall towards me. Deliberately, I tried to stop him as he hurried past, but my outstretched hand pressed through his shoulder. Never mind, I told myself. In essence, I was dreaming. Any foolish thing could happen in a dream. I started walking down the hall. I passed a room and saw a green card with white lettering, no smoking, oxygen in use. Unusual dream, I thought. I'd never been able to read in dreams. Words always ran together when I tried. This was completely legible, despite the general blurring which continued. It's not exactly a dream, of course, I told myself, seeking to explain it. Being under anesthesia isn't like being asleep. I nodded in agreement with the explanation. Keep on walking. Anne would be in the waiting room. I set my mind on reaching her and comforting her. I felt her suffering as though it were my own. I passed the nurse's station and heard them talking. I made no attempt to speak to them. All of this was in my mind. I had to go along with that, accept the rules. All right, it's not a dream per se. But it was easier to think of it as one, a dream then, under anesthesia. Wait, I thought, stopping. Dream or not, I can't walk around in my patient's gown. I glanced down at myself, startled to see the clothes I was wearing when the accident occurred. Where's the blood, I wondered. I recalled an instant vision of myself unconscious in the wreckage. Blood had been spraying. I felt a sense of eggs. No, sorry for the impatience. Exaltation. Yeah. Why? Because I'd reasoned something out despite the dullness of my mind. I couldn't possibly be that man in the bed. He was in a patient's gown, bandaged, fed by tubes. I was dressed, I'm bandaged, mobile. Total difference. A man in street clothes was approaching me. I expected him to pass me. Instead, to my surprise, he put his hand on my shoulder and stopped me. I could feel the pressure of each separate finger on my flesh. Do you know what happened yet? He asked. Happened? Yes, he nodded. You've died. I looked at him in disgust. That's absurd, I said. It's true. If I were dead, I wouldn't have a brain. I told him. I couldn't talk to you. It doesn't work that way, he persisted. The man in that room is dead, not me, I said. I'm under anesthesia, being operated on. In essence, I'm dreaming. I was pleased by my analysis. No, Chris, you're dead. I felt a chill. How did he know my name? I peered at him. Closely. Did I know him? What? Did I know him? Was that why he'd appeared in my dream? No, not at all. I felt distaste for him. Anyway, I thought, the idea made me smile despite my irritation. This was my dream, and he had no claim to it. Go find your own dream, I said, gratified by the cleverness of my dismissal. If you don't believe me, Chris, he told me, look in the waiting room. Your wife and children are there. They haven't been told yet that you've died. Wait a minute. I pointed my finger at him, jabbing at the air. You're the one who told me not to fight it, aren't you? He started to reply, but I was so incensed by that I wouldn't let him speak. I'm tired of you, and I'm tired of this stupid place. I said, I'm going home. Something pulled me from him instantaneously. It was as though my body was encased in metal with a distant magnet drawing me to itself. I hurtled through the air so fast I couldn't see or hear a thing. It ended as abruptly as it started. I was standing in fog. I looked around, but saw nothing in any direction. I began to walk, moving slowly through the mist. Now and then, I thought I caught a fleeting glimpse of people. When I tried to see them clearly, though, they faded off. I almost called to one, then chose not to. I was master of this dream. I wouldn't let it dominate me. I attempted to distract myself by making believe I was back in London. Remember how I traveled there in 1957 to write a film? It had been November, and I had walked in fogs like this more than once. Pea soup is a good description. This was even thicker, though, like being underwater. It even felt wet. Finally, through the fog, I saw our house. That sight relieved me in two ways. One, the very look of it. Two, the way I had gotten there so quickly. That could only happen in a dream. Suddenly, an inspiration came to me. I've told you how my body hurt. Even though it was a dream, I still felt pain. Accordingly, I told myself that since the pain was dream engendered, it wasn't necessary that I felt it. Dream engendered, yeah. Robert, with the thought, the pain was gone, which caused another sense of pleasure and relief. What more vivid proof could one require that this was dream and not reality? I remembered then how I had sat up on the hospital bed, laughing because it had all been a dream. That's exactly what it was, period. I was in the entry hall without transition. Dream, I thought, and nodded satisfied. I looked around, my vision still blurred. Wait, I thought. I'd been able to dispel the pain. Why not the vision? Nothing happened. Everything beyond 10 feet was still obscured by what appeared to be a pall of smoke. I whirled at the clicking noise of claws across the kitchen floor. Ginger was running into the front hall. You recall our German shepherd? She saw me and began her rocking, bouncing run of joy. I spoke her name, delighted by the sight of her. I bent to stroke her head and saw my hand sink deep into her skull. She recoiled with a yelp and scuttled back in terror, bumping hard against the kitchen door jamb. Ears pressed tight to her head, hair erected on her neck. Ginger, I said. I fought away a sense of dread. Come here. She acting foolishly, I told myself. I moved after her and saw her slipping frantically on the kitchen floor, trying to run away. Ginger, I cried. I wanted to be irritated with her, but she looked so frightened that I couldn't be. She ran across the family room and lunged out through the flap of the dog door. I was going to follow her, then decided not to. I would not be victimized by this dream no matter how insane it got. I turned and called Anne's name. No answer to my call. I looked around the kitchen, seeing that the coffee maker was on, its pair of red bulbs burning. The glass pot on the heater plate was almost empty. I managed a smile. She'd done it again. I thought, in no time, the house would be permeated with a reek of burning coffee. I reached out to pull the plug, forgetting. My hand went right through the wires, and I stiffened. Then forced back amusement. You can't do anything right in dreams, I reminded myself. I searched the house, our bedroom and the bathroom, Ian's and Marie's room, their connecting bathroom, Richard's room. I ignored the blurring of my vision. That was unimportant, I decided. When I found myself unable to ignore, What I found myself unable to ignore was an increasing lethargy I felt. Dream or not, my body felt like stone. I went back inside our bedroom and sat on my side of the bed. I felt a twinge of uneasiness because it didn't shift beneath me. It's a waterbed. Forget it. A dream's a dream, I told myself. They're insane, that's all. I looked at my clock radio, leaning close to see the hands and numbers. It was 6:53. I looked out through the glass door. It wasn't dark outside. Misty, but not dark. Yet how could it be morning if the house was empty? At this time, they should all be in beds. Never mind, I said, struggling to get it all together in my mind. You're being operated on. You're dreaming this. Anne and the children are at the hospital waiting for... A new confusion struck me. Was I really in the hospital? Or had that been part of the dream too? Was I actually asleep on this bed, dreaming everything? Maybe the accident had never occurred. There were so many possibilities, each one affecting the next. If only I could think more clearly. But my mind felt numb, as though I had been drinking or taking sedations. I lay down on the bed and closed my eyes. It was the only thing to do. I knew that much. Presently, I'd wake up with the truth. A dream in the hospital while under anesthesia, or a dream in my bed while asleep. I hoped it was the latter, because in that case, I'd wake up to find Anne laying by my side and can tell her what a crazy dream I'd had. Hold her lovingly warmth in my arms and kiss her tenderly and laugh as I told her how bizarre it is to dream of dreaming. We'll squeeze one more in here. They're short chapters. This black, unending nightmare. I was exhausted, but I couldn't rest, my sleep broken by Anne's crying. I tried to rise to comfort her. Instead, I hovered in a limbo between darkness and light. Don't cry, I heard myself murmur. I'll wake you up. I'll wake up soon and be with you. Just let me sleep a while. Please don't cry. It's all right. Sweetheart, I'll take care of you. Finally, I was forced to open my eyes. I wasn't lying down, but standing in a mist. I started walking slowly towards the sound of her crying. I was tired, Robert, groggy, but I couldn't let her cry. I had to find out what was wrong and end it so she wouldn't cry like that. I couldn't bear to hear her cry like that. I moved into a church I'd never seen before. All the pews were filled with people. Their forms were gray. I couldn't see their features. I walked down the middle aisle trying to understand why I was there. What church was this, and why was the sound of Anne's crying coming from here? I saw her sitting in the front pew, dressed in black. Richard on her right, Marie and Ian to her left. Next to Richard, I could see Louise and her husband. All of them were dressed in black. They were easier to see than the other people in the church, yet even they looked faded, ghost-like. I could still hear the sobbing even though Anne was silent. It's in her mind, it came to me. And our minds are so close, I hear it. I hurried towards her to stop. I stood in front of her. I'm here, I said. She looked ahead as though I hadn't spoken, as though I weren't there at all. None of them looked towards me. Were they embarrassed by my presence and pretending not to see me? I glanced down at myself. Perhaps it was my outfit. Hadn't I been wearing it a long time now? It seemed as though I had all, though I wasn't sure. I looked back. All right, I said. I, I had difficulty speaking. My tongue felt thick. All right, I repeated slowly. I'm not dressed correctly. And I'm late. That doesn't mean. My voice trailed off because Anne kept looking straight ahead. I might have been invisible. Anne, please, I said. She didn't move or blink. I reached out to touch her shoulder. She twitched sharply, looking up. Her face was gone blank. What's wrong? I asked. The crying in her mind abruptly surfaced and she jerked herself left hand up to cover her eyes, trying to repress a sob. I felt a numbing pain inside my head. What's wrong? I thought. Anne, what's wrong? I pleaded. She didn't answer, and I looked at Richard. His face was tight, tears running down his cheeks. Richard, what's going on? I asked. My words sounded slurred, as though I were drunk. He didn't answer, and I looked at Ian. Will you please tell me? I asked. I felt a stab of anguish looking at him. He was sobbing quietly, rubbing shaking fingers at his cheeks, trying to brush away the tears that fell from his eyes. What in the name of God? I thought. Then I knew, of course, the dream. It still continued. I was in the hospital being operated on. No, I was asleep. On my bed and dreaming. Whatever. Flared my mind. The dream was continuing, and now it included my own funeral. I had to turn away from them. I couldn't stand to watch them crying. I hate that stupid dream, I thought. When was it going to end? It was torment to me to be turned away when, just behind me, I could hear Anne and the children sobbing. I felt a desperate need to turn and comfort them. To what avail, though? In my dream, they mourned my death. What good would it do for me to speak if they believed me dead? I had to think of something else. It was the only answer. The dream would change. They always did. I walked towards the altar, following the drone of my voice. The minister, I realized. I willed myself to feel amused. That might be fun, I told myself, even in a dream. How many men receive the chance to listen to their own eulogy? I saw his blurred gray outline now. Behind the pulpit, his voice sounded hollow and distant. I hope he's giving me a royal send-off, I thought bitterly. He is, said the voice. I looked around. That man again. The one I'd seen in the hospital. Odd that, of everyone, he looked most clear to me. Haven't found your own dream yet? I see, I told him. Odd, too, that I could speak to him without effort. Chris, try to understand, he said. This isn't a dream. It's real. You've died. Will you get off that? I began to turn away. His fingers on my shoulder once again, solid, nearly pinching my flesh. That was odd, too. Chris, can't you see? he asked. Your wife and children, dressed in black? A church? A minister delivering your eulogy? A convincing dream, I said. He shook his head. Let go of me, I told him threateningly. I don't have to listen to this. His grip was strong. I couldn't break it. Come with me, he said. He led me to the platform where I saw a casket resting on supports. Your body is in there, he said. He told me. Really? I said. My tone was cold. The casket lid was shut. How could he know I was in there? You can see inside of it if you try, he answered. Unexpectedly, I felt myself begin to shake. I could look into the casket if I tried. Suddenly, I knew that. But I won't, I told him. I twisted from his grip and turned away. This is my dream, I said, glancing across my shoulder. Maybe you can't understand that, but if it's a dream, he interrupted, why don't you try to wake up? I whirled to face him. All right, that's exactly what I'll do, I said. Thank you for such a very good suggestion. I closed my eyes. All right, you heard the man, I told myself. Wake up. He told you what to do. Now do it. I heard Anne sobbing getting louder. Don't, I said. I couldn't bear the sound of it. I tried to back off, but it followed me. I clenched my teeth. This is a dream, and you are going to wake up from it right now, I told myself. Any second now, I jolt awake, perspiring, trembling. Anne would speak my name in startled sympathy, then hold me in her arms, caress me, tell. The sobbing kept on getting louder and louder. I pressed both hands against my ears to shut it out. Wake up, I said. I repeated it with fierce determination. Wake up. I was standing in the front hall of our house. I didn't understand that. Then I saw the mist again, my vision blurred, and I began to make out forms of people in the living room, gray and faded. They stood or sat in small groups, murmuring words I couldn't hear. I walked into the living room, past a knot of people. None of them were clear enough for me to recognize. Still the dream, I thought. I clung to that. I walked by Louise and Bob. They didn't look at me. Don't try to talk to them, I thought. Accept the dream. Move on. I walked into the bar room, moving towards the family room. Richard was behind the bar, making drinks. I felt a twinge of resentment. Drinking at a time like this, I rejected the thought immediately. A time like what? I challenged myself. A time like what? I challenged my mind. This was no special time. It was merely a depressing party in a bleak, depressing dream. Moving, I caught glimpses. Anna's older brother, Bill, his wife, Patricia, her father and stepmother, her younger brother, Phil, his wife, Andrea. I tried to smile. Well, I told myself, when you dream, you really do it up right. No detail overlooked. And his entire family down from San Francisco, no less. Where was my family, though, I wondered? Surely I could dream them here as well. Did it matter? In a dream? That they were 3,000 miles away? That was when a new thought came to me. Was it possible that I had lost my sanity? Perhaps the accident had damaged my brain. There was a thought. I clutched at it. Brain damage, weird, distorted images. Not just a simple operation going on, but something complex. Even as I moved unseen among these wraiths, scalpels might be probing at my brain, surgeons working to restore its function. It didn't help. Despite the logic of it, I began to feel a sense of resentment. All these people totally ignoring me? I stopped in front of someone, faceless, nameless. Damn it, even in a dream, people talk to you, I said. I tried to grab him by the arms. My fingers moved into his flesh as though it were water. I looked around and saw the family room table. Moving there, I tried to pick up someone's glass to hurl it against the wall. It was like trying to grip on the air. Anger mounted suddenly. I shouted at them, "Damn it, this is my dream. Listen to me." My laughter was involuntarily strained. Listen to yourself, I thought. You're acting as though this is really happening. Get things straight, Nielsen. This is a dream. I left them all behind, starting down the back hall. And Uncle John was standing in front of me, looking at me at some photographs on the wall. I walked right through him, feeling nothing. Forget it, I ordered myself. It doesn't matter. Our bedroom door was closed. I walked through it. This is insane, I muttered. Even in dreams, I'd never walked through my doors before. My aggravation vanished as I moved to the bed and looked at Anne. She was lying on her left side, staring towards the glass door. She still had on that black dress I had seen her wearing in the church, but her shoes were off. Her eyes were red from crying. Ian sat beside her, holding her hand. Tears ran slowly down her cheeks. I felt a rush of love for him. He's such a sweet and gentle boy, Robert. I reached forward to stroke his hair. He looked around, and for a moment, which seemed to stop my heart, I thought he was looking at me, seeing me. Ian, I mumbled. He looked back at Anne. Mom, he said. She didn't respond. He spoke again, and her eyes moved slowly to his face. I know it sounds insane, but I feel as if Dad is with us. I looked at Anne quickly. She was staring at Ian, her expression unchanged. I mean, right here. He told her, like, now. Her smile was one of straining tenderness. I know you want to help, she said. I really feel it, Mom. She couldn't go on, a great sob racking her. Oh, God, she whispered. Chris. Tears filled her eyes. I dropped beside the bed and tried to touch her face. "And don't," I started. Breaking off, I twisted from her with a groan to see my fingers sink into her flesh. "Ian, I am afraid," Anne said. I turned back quickly to her. The last time I'd seen such a look on her face was on a night when Ian had been sick and disappeared for 3 hours. A look of helplessness, incapacitated. A look of dread. "Anne, I'm here," I said. "I'm here. Death isn't what you think." Terror caught me unaware. "I didn't mean that," cried my mind. I couldn't take it back, though. The admission had been made. I fought against it, straining to repress it by concentrating on Anne and Ian. But the question came unbidden, and I couldn't stop it. What if that man had told me the truth? What if this wasn't a dream? I struggled to retreat. Impossible! The way was blocked. I countered with rage. So what if I had thought it? What if I had considered it? There was no proof of it beyond that belief consideration. Better. I felt vengeful justification. I began to touch and probe my body. "This is death?" I challenged scornfully. "Flesh and bone?" Ridiculous. It might not be a dream. That much I could allow. But it was certainly not death. The conflict seemed to drain me suddenly. Once more, my body felt like stone. Again, I thought, never mind. I thrust it from my mind. I lay down on my side on the bed, and looked at Anne. It was unnerving to lie beside her, face to face. Her staring through me like a window. Close your eyes, I thought. I did. Escape through sleep, I told myself. The evidence isn't in by any means. This could still be a dream. But God, dear God in heaven, if it was, I hated everything about it. Please, I begged whatever powers might attend me. Release me from this black, unending nightmare. Well, that was a good start. Okay, so we're going to come back. And where are we leaving off with? I know I still exist is what we're coming back with. All right. Underdogs, misfits, and other little lunatics. Stick with me. This is honestly one of my favorite movies. It's like heaven and hell and life and death. And the movie I've watched so many times, and every time I watched it, I come out like I've seen it for the first time. So reading the book, I'm really excited for this adventure, and I really want you to take it with me. So stick around. I think it'll be a good read. Anyway, I love you. So I'm just gonna read and like until I get too tired to read. I'm gonna upload this and we'll come back. All right, bye.